in a really safe place here, but in Chile now things are escalating and it's become quite dangerous, and those of us who are connected to Chile are quite concerned because the pandemic is escalating really rapidly, and people are rioting because they're hungry. So the hunger and the political discontent and the total lack of trust in the government is it's a dangerous mixture, and people are very nervous. And I think it's also worth thinking for us, how much COVID has affected our situation, like for artists everywhere, all over the world. But imagine if you hadn't had work since October last year.
Yeah.
So the Chilean artists, basically, the art world there, the artists did incredible work in the streets for the people, but the galleries closed in October, the theatres closed, all the opportunities closed, the work for artists stopped. The museums haven't really been open very much at all since October last year, and there's all these projects that are just completely suspended and have been suspended, and things were literally starting to pick up. Museums were opening, universities were going back for the first time since October, and 2 weeks later COVID hit.
Wow.
So it was just crazy because everyone was like, yeah, things are starting to move. Finally, I'm going to see my students again, and galleries are opening, and there's a huge queue of work that had been deferred to get into the galleries, and then COVID. Yeah. So it's really a different situation there than it is like for a lot of us. Yeah.
And how is that impacting on the project then, and the capacity to continue, even the postal element? Yeah.
Well, the postal element has been growing at great guns. We're now calling it Beberemos el vino nuevo juntos. Let us drink the new wine together. And Max has, because the post, in a way, in terms of the collaboration of this project, which is a very, we pick it up, we work intensely for a very short time, and then we leave it for a long, and then we connect, we just send emails back and kind of keep in touch. So it's always a short gap of time we have to spend together. And I think Max and I probably wouldn't be working together this year if it wasn't for COVID, because we both were stuck inside and we both had put off residencies. So that gave us an opportunity to work remotely together. Yeah. And Max, because the postal system has completely shut down now, so he can't send the map, which we thought it was really important that the map was a physical object to begin with. We wanted to send physical objects because of the thing of touch, to see if we could continue touch in a world where touch was so impossible, but it's become a digital project, which has actually been really amazing because we've been able to digitally send the map to over 30 artists all over the world, really interesting people. And that's been wonderful because it's been an excuse to connect with people for a project. So it's really brought us back into connection with a lot of our communities. And then we started getting the maps back. So now if you look on the website, which I'll put in the chat in a second, you can see some of the maps that are starting to come back. And we're sort of really planning a project, a simultaneous project in Auckland and in Santiago, where Max can layer various versions of different maps by different artists from different parts of the world together in different ways, and then exhibit them in paper form. And we'll have different kind of objects as well, but we're really thinking about how we can kind of synthesize work that's been done by artists in different places to bring them together into single cohesive objects of relationality.
Wonderful. Yeah. And so I'm also really interested, because the work that you create has so many traces already in it, and the kind of layering of ideas, and that you move through text into imagery and drawing and color and then into other kind of movement spaces and artifacts and all kinds of shifts. And I'm just interested then how do you feel that lends itself to this new reality of trying to do an arts project? In a way, for me, it seems like it actually gives you a huge amount to work with.
Yeah.
Not just working with the body, exchanging, but maybe all of these other experiences underneath that, that you can kind of find these traces in different ways. And maybe you could have a talk about that. I'll also scan for any questions. And I know if anybody has a question, please put up your hand and we'll bring you in to ask the question, and then or you can post something in Q&A. But yeah, so how are you feeling about that
Yeah, for me, the multimodality of it allows us to traverse time and space as well, because every time we work, I end up with an archive of video material, poetry, like objects, all sorts of, phrases, materials. And so it's actually really nice to be able to bring some of those archives together in a website that's like part archive, but part performance space and part virtual gallery space. And to move between those different modes, it's been actually wonderful to have a chance to look back on work from before and have that older work talk to this current situation.
Yeah.
So, and also to be doing, because Max and I are having these kind of semi-regular conversations, and then to make these little 3-minute videos after our conversations. So it reflects on the present moment, and I can curate it next to the past so quickly. So I think that, under the circumstances of this crazy constraint that we're in, I think being able to work with the website as our kind of virtual space and repository has been really, really interesting, an interesting option for us. Also to be able to make things available to our wider community, and they can just have free and instant access to the material and like asynchronously look through it in their own time.
Yeah, but I feel also with your work, there's so much of the body and sense of embodiment embedded in it. Kind of already comes from a practice and a movement practice. So there's this kind of a sense of weight to it and kind of history as well that travels in that digital space. We actually have a question. You're like a DJ here. It's extraordinary.
You're doing incredibly well, Jenny. I'm very impressed.
But yeah, so Paul, I'd let you in as a panelist. I don't know if you. Yay, great. So if you want to ask a question.
Cheers.
Hi. Cheers.
It's 10 o'clock here, so.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just coffee. Congratulations on the great presentation. I really loved it.
Thank you,
I was really sensitive to the kind of you're working with the kind of not just celebration, but kind of the innovation of like mess and leakiness and things that cross and impropriety and like the intelligence of the migrant and the invented, all of these things. Which I found really exciting, and I've really found that both in the work that you're doing and how you're presenting it in this space. And I was just thinking about, like what happens when we do these projects, and then what happens when we talk about them in kind of like academic or semi-academic sort of environments, and how are we in this way? And is there something about like, do you have like an invitation to us around leakiness and around mess about how we can be and hold space here?
Wow. I feel like having been at the symposium with you yesterday, and like after hanging out with you last year and then seeing you, and it was so like, I felt like a naughty school kid with my friend while we were Zooming yesterday. And I just think about like the importance of that, those little moments, I don't know, of how you can in yourself, I'm thinking about obedience and disobedience and Zoom, and I'm thinking about bacterial forces that move you beyond, and also like the desire to do something that doesn't quite make sense, and how you can follow that desire even when you don't quite understand it. I was thinking about when we were in the little workshop and we were both getting paper and like ripping it and making like little things on the cameras, and and I just think about how much, and I was going to bed last night after doing the workshop and having had this little conversation on Zoom, thinking about the delight and the unexpected moments that are the thing themselves. Like the unexpected thing, the thing that you don't expect to happen, is the most interesting thing. And the bacterial force that moves the work through into a place where you never expected it to go, but that you almost couldn't stop it going from that place because it was like a riptide or a momentum pathway that had its own surge. And that when you feel those surges, then it's like, that's very, like the whole Chile project has been really quite haphazard, and it's been a real career highlight for me over the last few years. It's been something I've been really proud of, keeping this reciprocal relationship with these wonderful artists. But it's always been, like the funding's always been quite last minute, and it always felt like a really big amount of work to be able to bring them over here or to get to Chile and then negotiate not speaking Spanish and working in these ways. And then when we were performing, we were always exhausted. And so, or I was often really exhausted. I could see Marisol is present, and I remember falling fast asleep during one of her rehearsals. Like, we were deep at work, and I woke up and all the dancers were moving around me in the space, and I'm like in the middle of the performance space, fast asleep. And like, and it's just that kind of being moved by, you know, the situation and being present to it, which does draw a lot on, I think, about Glenna and Susan's workshop yesterday, and that somatic practice of sensing and listening and responding and like folding and being folded by the constraints and the affordances of a time.
Thanks, Alys. That's wonderful. We have a couple of questions, but I think we do have to move on because we're moving to live sessions, and we just have to keep making sure that we get through. But they're actually in the chat, so you could respond to them directly.
Okay, cool.
I can leave you on as a panelist, and then
I'm also going to post Maximo's website because his solo work is so. I just think I'm really humbled to have the chance to work with him. And if people want to have a look at his website and see some of his work, there's a lot of videos there, so people can check them out.
Brilliant. Okay, Alys, thank you so much.
Jenny.
So wonderful to see you. I hope you're with us for the rest of some of the time today, and
thank you
lots
so
of love
much.
to you. Take care.